Hello there. My name is John Harvey, and just last night I gave a speech to the Southwest Tarrant County Democrats on the jobs program. I posted this on Facebook or announced that I would be doing so, and a number of people, upwards of three or four, said, would this be live streamed or videoed? And no, it was not. But I got to thinking to myself, why don't I just do the whole thing all over again? So I won't be able to capture the excitement of an Olive Garden on a Monday night. I do have here, I got some spaghetti and a glass of water and a wine glass and an endless supply of breadsticks. But otherwise, I'm just going to have to kind of wing it for you here. So, not a terribly long talk, and that will be something for which you'll be thankful very soon. Okay, so again, it was for the Tarrant County Democrats on the importance of the job guarantee. And I apologize, I'm going to be pretty much reading this because I really should be in the other room working on exam two for my summer class, but zoom through this. A number of Democratic candidates have started to support the idea of a jobs program or a job guarantee. These include Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Cory Booker, Kirsten Gillibrand, some guy named Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren has mentioned it. And in my school of thought, we're really excited about that because this has been a central part of our policy recommendation for, gosh, I guess at least a half a century. And what I want to do tonight, i.e., last night, is make three arguments. First, that we absolutely need some sort of supplemental income or source of employment for a healthy economy in the United States today. Second, that in fulfilling that need, a jobs program is far superior to a universal basic income. And third, the Democratic Party absolutely needs to embrace this if they are to become relevant and competitive. Argument number one, that is that we need some sort of supplemental income or jobs for a healthy economy. Well, it has seeped into our consciousness, particularly here in the US, that the market system is somehow natural and the only logical or possible means of solving economic problems. Furthermore, only outcomes associated with the market system are considered just or worthwhile. Indeed, the market is viewed as an unbiased judge of value. For example, if some corporate CEO gets a $20 million bonus, well, she must have earned it because otherwise they wouldn't be able to pay it to her. And if some minimum wage worker at a fast food place also has to get food stamps, well, I guess that's logical because the market has decreed that. The market works in mysterious ways and the market's always right. Well, that's not true. The market is just a bunch of people, and it is no more objective, moral, or rational than they are. It is merely one of the many means by which our values are expressed and reinforced. The market rewards behavior that conforms to the social norm. In a racist society, for example, the market will reflect that racism in income distributions and wealth distributions and in the sort of employment each class of people is allowed to pursue. If you had decided as a black woman in the American South in the 1950s to set yourself up as a physician, you'd be lucky if you were only shunned. The market would, of course, make damn sure, that objective market, make damn sure that you at least went bankrupt, unless, of course, you only served other African Americans. The market's okay with that. So first and foremost, let's get rid of the notion that the markets are somehow objective arbiters of justice. They are not. All right, markets are people. Elections are not, as you may have noticed recently, objective arbiters of justice. Votes are cast by people. Dollars are spent by people. Now let me tell you something else that markets don't do. They don't guarantee that there are sufficient gainful employment opportunities for all those who are willing to work. And yet, even among Democrats, we often don't recognize this. Except in periods of extreme distress, like the Great Depression or the financial crisis, it's implicitly assumed, as part of this whole market is savior myth, that if someone isn't working, it's because they don't want to. Because after all, there are plenty of jobs. No, they're not. Labor is a cost, and therefore the market system incentivizes firms to use as little labor as possible. A side effect of the profit motive is not more jobs. Obviously, if a new firm opens or an existing one expands and they need new workers, but as few as possible and for as little as they need to pay. Now, that's fine. I'm not criticizing that. For what it does, the market system is doing it well. Under the right circumstances, they should offer quality products to consumers at low prices, and the market reacts very quickly as profits and losses cause entrepreneurs to shut down unpopular undertakings and redouble popular ones. That's wonderful. But what the market doesn't do, however, is automatically create lots of jobs at high wages. And this is going to get worse as technology and productivity continue to rise, which, by the way, is not a new phenomenon at all, although it's been getting a lot of press lately. Bottom line, Markets maximize profits. They do not maximize jobs or wages. And this is why, ironically, we need the government to help maintain a healthy capitalist system. Capitalism needs people to be earning the incomes necessary to buy their goods and services. But if capitalism isn't providing those incomes, then who will? Government. We therefore need something like universal basic income or jobs program. As an aside here, obviously I'm leaving out a lot of economic theory, just kind of jumping right to the point in terms of the way the macroeconomy works in generating employment and income. Okay, point two, why the job guarantee is superior to universal basic income. First of all, universal basic income, well, it's a guaranteed, you can do either one of these many different ways, but the basic idea is a guaranteed minimum income from the government without a means test. And a jobs program is government as provider of employment for all unemployed citizens. My school of thought leans heavily towards the latter, and I'm going to give 4 reasons for why it is a superior solution. Number one, we have social problems that the market is not solving and will never solve, and those employed by the job guarantee could contribute in these areas. See, remember, markets bring us things, or markets pursue things that are profitable, but not necessarily of social value. Some things are. Markets bring us things like restaurants, like the Olive Garden, and hardware stores, both of which are both profitable and of social value. The market also brings us things like casinos and pornography, which are very profitable, but of debatable social value. I'll leave that decision up to you. Meanwhile, the government is supposed to do things that are of social value, but are not profitable. The government should not do anything that is profitable. That is the realm of the private sector. So the government, we don't need the government to open up a chain of fast food restaurants. We've already got those, right? That's profitable. What the government should do is step in and do the things that aren't profitable, but of social benefit, for example, educating the poor. So long as we have social problems that the market system is not addressing, we will have need of the services of those who aren't employed in the private sector. And here's just a quick list of the things that we need people to do that are not profitable. Public education, police forces, fire departments, national defense, national parks, counseling, child care, elderly care, public transportation, city parks, the arts, cataloging American history, installing tornado shelters behind schools in danger areas, public infrastructure, child and family social services, environmental cleanup, and on and on. Why? And under a job guarantee, raising your own children or caring for family members could most certainly be included as a job description. After all, if you hired it out to somebody else, it would be a job. So why not do it yourself? Universal basic income does not address these needs except by coincidence, and almost certainly on a very small scale. If one day we run out of social problems, then yeah, we're going to have an issue, but we haven't hit that point yet. Second reason to prefer the job guarantee. Not only is it going to put people in jobs that will be solving social problems that the market doesn't address, but it also provides training. A bright young woman raised on the poorest side of town is likely to have attended underfunded and overcrowded schools and lived in an unsafe environment, certainly not conducive to making the best of her abilities. Hopefully we can end those circumstances, but until then, the private sector is not going to hire her because she lacks the requisite job skills and it will be costly to train her. No problem. Part of the job guarantee is helping people develop their talents, whether these be in art, accounting, software design, welding, whatever. Sometimes people get the idea that government, jobs like this would be like, well, they take a shovel and dig a hole somewhere. Absolutely not. The Smithsonian needs a web page. Surely we need to have people who are maintaining their web page and so on. Now, note that this also benefits the private sector because now this woman also has a resume worth considering. There's some job guarantee. I'm going to drink my non-wine here. Some job guarantee policies suggest that those hired under the job guarantee should earn marginally less than their private sector equivalents so that once the latter expands, the worker can move to the private sector. And I see some logic in that, but I'm not totally sold on it because there's a third reason why I like the job guarantee better than universal basic income, and that is that we can use it to address social injustices. You may have noticed in the world that jobs traditionally done by women tend to pay less. Why? Because they're traditionally done by women. For example, childcare. Again, it doesn't have to be done by women, but it is, and that's why we pay it less. So, under the job guarantee, we have state-sponsored. Child-sponsored state care would be very interesting, but no, it's state-sponsored child care, which again helps the private sector. But we actually pay a decent wage to these people who are working doing the child care. And now we are saying by this is something that is important to our society. We want people who are attracted to this to be rewarded commensurately. And this will affect wages, the structure of wages throughout the macroeconomy. Women now have a choice, or whomever we end up in this area, childcare, now have a choice that doesn't include McDonald's. And so this then allows us to have an input in terms of social justice that the universal basic income would never have. Fourth and last reason to prefer the job guarantee. The job guarantee brings self respect to those employed, and it does not create resentment on the part of others. There will absolutely be a tendency to view those living off the UBI, Universal Basic Income, as leeches. This will create division and eat at the sense of self worth of those who are the recipients. Being engaged in undertakings that are helping solve social problems and are providing training brings pride. It brings a sense of community that we sort of need today. Okay, so far we need something supplemental to help the macroeconomy. That supplemental thing should be the job guarantee. Point number three, and we're nearly done, is why the Democratic Party needs the job guarantee. And the Democratic Party clearly endorses social policy that are distinct from those of the Republican Party. But at least since Bill Clinton, the Democratic Party's economic policy has been Republican light. There is no essential difference except in degree. Both parties are free marketers. Their advisors tend to come from Wall Street and not Main Street, and they come from the same set of mainstream economists, all of whom view the market as the default solution. They buy into that market mythology. For example, in 1996, Bill Clinton signed the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act, making it more difficult to get welfare. In 1999, he signed the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act, which had reined in bank risk-taking activity. In 2000, he signed the Commodity Futures Modernization Act, allowing for more speculation in markets. None of this sounds like what the Democratic Party should be doing. Now, I don't think we can I don't want to paint Obama in as bad a light because, after all, he was blocked at every turn, and he did give us expanded health care, however flawed the final products. But again, I don't want to blame him too much because they didn't let him do anything. But the Republicans didn't force him to appoint Timothy Geithner as Treasury Secretary. People at the time said that Geithner was a Wall Street guy who was going to be trying to parlay this into something very profitable in the private sector. There was a cartoon at the time that had Geithner sitting at his desk and said Treasury Secretary to front, and he's on the phone and he says, "Well, I'm temping right now." And behind him were doors like Goldman Sachs and so forth. And lo and behold, guess what he did after he left the government? Exactly that. In fact, today, he is president of Mariner Finance, a company that the Washington Post did an article on just earlier this month, highlighting as a predatory lender draining income from the poorest Americans. Not exactly what we hope for from Democratic policymakers, but precisely what the party has become, at least in terms of economics. We also, under Obama, had a White House that refused to prosecute or even investigate the financial sector for fear of destabilizing it, because it had done so well up to that point. And by 2010, the Obama administration was already declaring its intent to reduce the budget deficit while unemployment had only barely dipped below 10%. Insane. In fact, the research from the Levy Institute suggests that the slowdown in government spending was one of the reasons why this was the slowest economic expansion since World War II. And I won't even get into Arnie Duncan's neoliberal education policies. No. And we heard very much the same from Hillary Clinton. The Democratic Party cannot continue to worship at the altar of the market and serve its constituents. When it comes to economic policy, the Democratic Party has lost its direction, it's lost its soul. But maybe, just maybe, we have a chance to get it back now. I'm afraid we're teetering on the edge of too late, but maybe not there yet. So I feel very strongly that the job guarantee and the press it's been getting lately is a very, very positive thing. And these idiots going on about, this left-wing Democratic Party. What's left-wing about saving capitalism? Because that's what this is about. You want this to be like a sprinkler system in your front yard. If it rains enough, wonderful. I don't have to turn it on. But I live in Texas. It's not going to rain enough. And so I need to turn on the sprinkler system to supplement what I would otherwise get from the sky. We need to supplement what we otherwise get from the market, because what it does well, can do well. But it doesn't create enough jobs. Check, please. Actually, I didn't have to pay last night because they paid for us. Au revoir, mes amis.